Good morning. This is Sunrise Daily, reaching you live from Port Harcourt in Rivers State. I'm Ayo Makinde.
Good morning. I'm Maupe Ogun Yusuf.
Well, it's a beautiful Tuesday morning. I bet you missed that.
It's certainly good to see you, Kaede.
I'm Kaede Okikilu. Great to be back.
Well, it's actually a good place to start. Did you have enough rest? Have you quarantined?
Where precisely did you travel
Exactly.
to?
I mean, it's only if you have to travel abroad that you have to isolate.
If you travel to Ibadan, I don't know. I'm just kidding. Well, one of those things that, of course, is making the news now is the second phase of the vaccinations that has finally kicked off. Of course, all of that went on about the fact that whether or not it was time to begin to take it, and then the conversation we had with NAFDAC and all of that, all, kind of allayed fears. You were particularly excited about some of the things that the DG of NAFDAC said, especially about the vaccinations. The question then is getting people to go take the vaccines. So
initially, when we heard that, I think we're supposed to have started. Well, let me start from the beginning. When we received the second round of the vaccines that were donated to Nigeria, the AstraZeneca vaccines were donated, and then later on we got the Moderna vaccines from the United States, and we're told that the vaccination was going to start on August the 10th. I think that people just thought, okay, well, we have another set of vaccines, so those who have not been vaccinated, another opportunity, here we go. And then we just thought, okay, NAFDAC collecting the vaccines, and it was just routine documentation. What was NAFDAC going to do? Were they going to say, no, they are not fit for you? We just thought it was ceremony, so to speak. But then it turned out that, well, there was a little more than that needed to be done. There were some things that had not been done, and there had to be proper documentation, even though we have now been told that, well, it was all administrative. But NAFDAC said they had to make sure that everything, all the boxes were properly tagged. They use a barcode to be able to trace. In case there is a problem, they are able to trace directly. So to hear that there was that sort of rigor in administering vaccines, it wasn't just a ceremonial process that, we just did it to fulfill all righteousness. And yes, let it not be that it just came and we just give it to our people like that, then our NAFDAC will take it and certify it. No. Because the process was going to take longer than usual, or because according to the NAFDAC Director General, there was incomplete documentation that came with these vaccines, and they had to sort out a number of things by themselves before the vaccines were eventually given to the Nigerian people. I think that shed a little more light on the work that goes on behind the scenes. It wasn't just ceremony. It wasn't just, and I think that was very reassuring.
Absolutely.
So in some ways, it was good to know that there's a lot of behind-the-scenes work that goes into ensuring the safety of Nigerians in taking this vaccine. So now that we have heard that everything has been completed, at the same time we've also received the Johnson & Johnson vaccine, which is supposed to be a single-dose vaccine going to hard-to-reach areas, and that the Moderna will be for those who are able to go for a second dose, because this one is you have to take 2 doses of the Moderna vaccine to be fully vaccinated. It's very heartwarming to see this particular process now officially kickstart. So I think the ball is now in the court of Nigerians to ensure that they're able to get these vaccines. The only other thing we're going to ask the federal government to do as they deploy this to states is that they have to put them in places where they're easy to reach. Because if people see that there are queues, if people see that it's going to be rather cumbersome, the chances are very slim that they will want to go through that process to go and get vaccinated for something that has not already directly impacted their lives. I know that a lot of people are looking to for the economy to kickstart fully, because there are a number of things that want to happen, and officially we're told, oh, as a result of COVID, COVID is still with us, the Delta variant. Exactly, we cannot do it. Yes, indeed. But we all know that somehow we know that we need to get our economy back on track. So the more people who can get vaccinated, the better for us. We understand that even though we only have 177,000 J&J vaccines, we are also expecting about another 4 million much later from the Nigerian government. So let us hope that, owing to the process that NAFDAC has set in place and the certification and all of that, that a lot of more Nigerians feel assured Yeah, assured is the word I think I can find, that indeed their safety has been looked after and they have the confidence to go and get this vaccine.
You know, I think that reassurance or assurance is a continuous thing.
Yeah.
I remember we had that conversation, I mean, just before I went on break, that is. And we were speaking to NCDC asking just how much of that information do you put out there? How much is too much? And I think generally there's been that dilemma of, you know, putting out too much just so that people don't get overwhelmed by the information, because whether you like it or not, there's still a lot of questions that the answers are not yes and or no. I mean, there's still a lot of things that are not clear. So I think it's quite important to,
naturally,
walk people through that process.
Yes.
I mean, there's no gain saying that this is a time to put out all your arsenal, your communication, enlightenment arsenal. Ensure that you don't take anything for granted. Don't think that people will know that the vaccines are here. For example, there are a lot of people that don't even know that we've gotten a new batch of, you know, shipment of vaccines.
2 new batches, as a matter of fact.
Exactly. And don't take it for granted that people know the process, that the boxes you ticked, for example. Put it out there. Tell people that this is what we know so far, and this is what we can tell you. I mean, it's not us versus them. We're in this together. And I think if people can see the big picture, yes, we say that, I mean, COVID has impacted our economy, but we cannot get out of this if we don't first deal with the COVID, you know, part of it. So that's why we have the non-pharmaceutical measures and the pharmaceutical measures. I mean, I had time to interact with people over the course of my leave, and believe me, believe you, me, believe me, you. How do they say that thing? Most times you're the only one wearing your face mask. But what I noticed is once you keep that consistent, people start to change. People start to say, okay, maybe I should get my mask. So I visit this person the first day. I'm wearing my mask. The person clearly is not wearing the mask. And the next day I see the person at least using the sanitizer and trying to keep some distance. And the next day, the person comes with a face mask. So I think it's important to stay consistent and not take it for granted that people know these things.
I think the most important thing in all of these, the NPIs, the vaccines and all, it's not just putting the information out, ladies and gentlemen. It is communicating to people. If we do not have shared ownership of the communication, we're still going to have this challenge. For instance, you remember there was a time, you know, about this vaccines, you can take this with this, you can't take this one with that one. So I have taken the Moderna or AstraZeneca, I cannot take this one with it and all of that. So all of that communication needs to be put out. And then what are the risks? People don't know these things. And then I remember it was yesterday, the DG of NCDC was saying that a lot of this now has to do with the health workers that are going to be administering this thing. Are they also equipped with the sufficient information to give to people that they will own?
That's extremely important because I was supposed to get vaccinated at the time I was breastfeeding, and I was told I couldn't get vaccinated. Exactly. It turned out that, it didn't have anything to do with breast milk. It was perfectly safe for breastfeeding mothers to get vaccinated. So, and this is from information from the National Primary Healthcare Board. This is not my information. So if you're a breastfeeding mom, it's okay for you to get vaccinated.
You know, so this is one of those information that needs to be put out. And then let's not also forget that we need to scale down the communication to all the people who will not understand. So if they don't understand and we assume that they get the message, it's going to be a problem. So all of that communication, well, government, as you said, there is a lot of rigorous, you know, work going on in the background that people are not aware of. As far as people are concerned, we just want a better country, right? All right, so next thing for us now is a quick look at the papers this morning. Let's begin with the Guardian newspaper. And, of course, the Guardian newspaper leads with the stories around the PIB today. And guess what? PIB ascent, mixed feelings, fresh challenges, trail legislation. That's what you have on the front page of the Guardian newspaper right there. Mixed feelings, fresh challenges, trail legislation. OPEC says it will open door to new investment. Host communities kick, decry exclusion. I don't see that host communities part going out or going down anytime soon. It's the host communities, impacted communities, and all of that. Well, I guess we'll see. PDP decries presidential assent despite outcry, seeks urgent amendments. That's what you have as the lead of the Guardian newspaper this morning. And right under that one, WHO alerts to fake COVID-19 vaccines as FG receives more doses, begins vaccination. It's one of those things that we just talked about now. The right information needs to be put out so that people do not panic for nothing. I guess, we'll have to let government come out and, give more education to people about this matter.
Go to the certified centers. They have to be places that people know, and can say, and there has to be signs that people should be able to say, this is how to identify a center administering government-approved vaccines.
Very, very crucial. Yeah. Well, one of the, a number of the riders warns that new, more dangerous variants of concern may emerge. Hundreds besiege Abuja FMC for vaccination.
See, people are interested.
Exactly. After deaths of 3 professors, Lil reverts to virtual, UI reverts to virtual lectures. And NIMC Lagos office shut as worker contracts COVID-19. Oh dear. That's the lead of the Guardian newspaper today.
Well, let's quickly take a look at what Daily Trust has for you. The big one is PIB as well. NNPC, PEF as the Petroleum Equalization Fund. Triple PRA to go as Buhari signs PIB into law. Ascent, major victory for Nigeria, that's according to NAS. Get right persons to implement acts, that's from experts.
Crucial.
We're sure no job losses, that's from Nupeng. PDP, Pandef kick as OPEC others hail action. So different parts of the act will certainly interest different people. High taxes pushing SME's mortality rate. That's coming from no other than the Vice President, and he will know because he's been running this SME's clinics for a while. So when he speaks, I think that we should listen to him. High taxes pushing SME's mortality rate.
I've sometimes tried to look at the list of taxes that we have all over the nation. The federal taxes, state taxes, local government taxes, something in the region of 30.
I think it's the multiplicity of taxes that is actually doing the small businesses in. The fact that you don't even know who you are owing and what you're supposed to pay at what point, but constantly you get besieged.
And somebody will come and bang on your door,
of your business.
Of your business.
Yes.
And just to be clear, when the Vice President says mortality, it means that people actually put money into business.
Yes.
Sometimes their life savings, right? Yes. And I mean, it's their life, and then that business crumbles, leaving them with nothing. Mortality might sound, okay, mortality, but essentially we have thousands of young people especially who have gone into business, simple business, makeup, and the rest. And
perhaps to also be clear, mortality means
facing those kinds of
exactly, of course. There's so many businesses that have died as a result of
from time to time.
Interesting. Well, look at this one now at the bottom here. COVID-19, AIDS, workers at risk as Buhari flouts isolation guidelines. Well, you have this one, President truly isolating. That's from the aid. Because don't forget that, yes, they were told that the President signed this while in isolation. At the ceremony, the full ceremony of the PIB signing, the one for the cameras will be done when the President is out of isolation. But then, when they did release that list about the number of people who were supposed to be isolated, it would seem that a number of them have since left isolation because we are started to see them at public events. But hey, what do we know? Maybe there was some mistake. Maybe they isolated before the President got back, because you know that the President's still a while.
What are the odds?
We don't know. But you might want to read this story on the front page of Daily Trust. There's a very sad one, though. How bandits abduct 15 students. Well, I want to believe how bandits abducted 15 students, 5 staff from Zamfara College. That's also there. Why third force to be difficult in 2023? That's from Naaba. And Ecomium says IBB clocks 80 today. Well, the general.
Well, yes.
At 80.
Depending on who is talking, there is always a lot to say about IBB.
Certainly.
Some still, reference some of his economic exploits.
Yes, shall we Maradona say? At some point.
Wow, Maradona, evil genius, you name it. In fact, he says that's the favorite one. That's his favorite coin, favorite title.
Evil genius.
Evil genius. He really loves the thoughts.
Okay.
Okay, let's take leadership. Leadership leads with something similar to what you've seen on the front page of the Daily Trust. NNPC goes fully commercial as PNB signs PIB into law. It's a page 4 read. And he said, riders, upstream, downstream regulators to be created within 90 days. So you can start counting, I guess. But, you know, that talk about getting the right people to implement the act, I'm thinking, do you have to get some people on board to implement the act?
It's important. May the acts not remain on paper. I mean, after how many years of clamoring for it, we've seen a number of laws like that where we clamor, and then when they finally are signed into law, then you're wondering, okay, was this what we clamored what we clamored the clamor for?
So there's still hurdles to cross with this one.
Indeed.
Big one. You see, experts set agenda as sector gets legal framework for investment. And PDP, Joe Youth's kick ACF Hill's president. Clearly, there's still a lot of debate on this one. And Saudi Aramco to acquire 20% stake in Reliance Industries Limited. That might interest you. And just right on top of that story, you see FG to borrow 5.62 trillion naira for 2022 budget deficit. I mean, we had that conversation yesterday on the show. So that starts on the front page and continues also on page 4. Just at the bottom left corner of the leadership newspaper, you see this one. Taliban takes over Afghan presidential palace. I mean, the scenes, images coming out of Afghanistan, I mean, quite worrisome. And you see that this is something most countries are looking at. In fact, the president or the presidency released a statement regarding that, because for a lot of people, it might have its ramifications on the fight against terrorism in Nigeria. So it's a major, major one. And of course, eulogy says IBB turns 80 today, as well as other stories on the front page of the leadership newspaper this morning.
The Nigerian Tribune this morning also leads with stories around the PIB. OPEC, PANDEF, PDP react as Buhari signs PIB into law. That's the lead story of the Nigerian Tribune this morning. Coalition of Oil and Gas Communities, PIB, is a rubber stamp of what the executive wanted. Check out the details of that on the inside pages. PANDEF, Buhari's accent callous, repressive, insensitive to emotion of Niger Delta. PDP says Buhari's signing PIB despite outcry shows contempt for oil communities. And OPEC says new law will enhance Nigeria's petroleum industry's reputation. All of that you'll find on page 5. But right above that story is that issue around cholera. We've talked about this over and over again, but that's what you have right there on the front page of the Nigerian Tribune. Cholera now in 23 states. FCT, 1,173 deaths recorded. All of that's very, very depressing, news, one would say. Suspected cases reached 37,819. We are collaborating with NCDC to stem the tide. That's according to the states. You remember when we had this conversation with the NCDC, the opinion is, look, the states have to take the lead in dealing with this issue. But that's what you have on the front page of the Nigerian Tribune today.
News Direct has this one. Nigerian News Direct. 13 years after Buhari signs PIB into law, PIB will open up investment in petroleum sector that's credited to Waleke. Signing marks a significant milestone for Nigeria's oil industry. That's from OPEC. And you see a number of other stories right there. Keita commends TED fund in revamping tertiary institutions. MTEF and FSP. Federal government seeks 5.62 trillion naira loan for 2022 budget deficit. Effective judicial system will assist Nigeria's economy. That's attributed to Ambassador Rimi. And you look at this one, and you might want to look at it in detail. Malaria. Makinde flags of distribution of 5 million insecticide-treated nets across 33 local government areas. You know, when that story came about how malaria is taking the lives of how many people in minutes, I mean, when you look at the number of people who are still dying to malaria and you calculate it over what that would translate to, how many people are we losing per minute, the figure was quite worrisome.
It is.
So when we see drives like this, we shouldn't just you know, shove it away or dismiss it and say, well,
it's
one of those things. When you look at the fact that diseases that we ought to have overcome by now, cholera, malaria, they're still the biggest life takers, not new diseases. Like, I'm not saying we should dismiss COVID, but you have to ask, you know, how well have we dealt with what it is that is currently ailing us? How seriously up the agenda is it for us as a people? Huge questions to ask around there.
Absolutely. I think, you know, generally people we just seem to undermine, so to speak, malaria. Maybe it's just malaria, but really, it's a major killer disease.
Yes, it is.
People need to be aware of that.
We'll take a look at Daily Times with the PIB story as well. Knocks kudos trail Buhari's ascent. So that's the big one for the Daily Times newspaper. It starts on the front page, by the way. Continues in the inside pages. And I mean, something I particularly like about Daily Times, the fact that they go back in time. Talk about Daily Times going back in time. And you see, Nigeria not fair to me, says ex-governor. But you know, the writer is what's quite interesting. No pension for 14 long years. I mean, so this pension matter is not today, as they say. And so imagine if we had that challenge as far back as, what year is this? Back in time, really. So you can pick up a copy of the Daily Times to see more details. And that story about FG borrowing 5.62 trillion naira also makes a front page. And this one, very interesting perspective. It's better Nigeria breaks up if we're going to keep killing each other. May laugh here. I imagine there'll be responses to that one in the coming hours or days. Let's leave it there for the Daily Times.
And the Blueprint newspaper this morning leads with a celebration of sorts. It's on the front page. IBB at 80. Some people will cut my neck for supporting resource control. That's the lead of the Blueprint newspaper this morning. Buhari, Lawan, others salute ex-president. Is intellectual depth indicative of coups he survived? Scribed to Nwanyawo. Is a quintessential statesman, says the PDP. Emulate IBB's virtues. Publisher urges youth. All of that you'll find on the inside pages. But right under the nameplate, Senate hails Buhari on ascent to PIB. Find that as the lead. Story continues on page 6. Act will stimulate investments, open up economy, say economists. President ought to have listened to public outcry, says the PDP. The details you'll find on the inside pages. And right under that one, FG unveils 4 airports for concession. Conversation has been going on for a while. And, the Ministry of Aviation says states cannot bid.
It is interesting. So they don't want to give it from one government to another government. they truly want the private sector to be involved. But who knows? What if states partner with the private sector? Can they successfully run a bid for one of the airports? We don't know.
You mean if states set up a business?
Well, what if they decide to partner? Like, yeah, run a partnership. They have stakes in a private arrangement, a private vehicle. Would that also work?
Well, I guess that's one of those conversations that the states themselves should be having with the Ministry of Aviation. Sounds like a good one.
Well, let us see what happens in that regard. But let's quickly look at what the Vanguard has this morning. Niger Delta stakeholders furious as Buhari signs PIB into law. They have a number of writers. Will speak after consultations. That's from Pandef. It's unacceptable. Owie Igbodo, Mulade Gbemre, Mumakai, Ikwere Group. You hear from Niger Delta INC. We can push for amendment later. That's from Bishop Isong Wills, and you have a number of other names there. It will bail Nigeria out of economic predicament. That's from the Senate. Investments, transparency coming to oil, gas industry. That's from Baja. It will create stability in oil industry. That's from Pengerson. And these are the unions. So let's look at this one. Gunmen on rampage in Zamfara kill cop. 2 civilians, abduct 15 students, others. And look at this, 2022 budget. Federal government crashes capital expenditure despite higher earnings. And 2023, without Buhari on ballot, we may not get all votes. We may not get all votes. That's from Oshibajo. Well, A number of stories for you on the front page of the Vanguard this morning. You might want to pick up a copy of the paper and see what it has to say about the PIB, other developing stories, and even our favorite Mr. and Mrs.
Well, that Mr. and Mrs., trust me, you have to take a look at it yourself to know what is there. You know I'm an advocate, but right now, All right, that's the papers this morning. We're back after now. Do stay with us.
Motion say aye. Those against it say nay. Ayes have it.
For many years, the Petroleum Industry Bill, or PIB, has generated a lot of contentious debates in the Senate.
To establish good governance, competitiveness, global best practices, and ease of doing business in the Nigerian oil and gas industry.
House of Representatives.
Several members have come and said because of the importance they needed to digest and prepare for full debate, as they were not fully aware that it was coming up this morning.
And any circle, the issue is understood.
How will government invest in EMP? It is by meeting up their JV cash calls. It is by trying as much as possible to rejig and let us have the PIB passed in order to create the right framework for investment.
The subject gained legendary status in Nigeria's economic and political conversation, such that the last 20 years had witnessed multiple attempts by government to pass an all-encompassing bill. But it appeared the scope and complexity of the process stifled the efforts. The objective of the Petroleum Industry Bill has always been to regulate the oil sector, such that it leaves no room for corruption, nepotism in the industry, and environmental degradation. With crude oil dominating Nigeria's economy, accounting for around 90% of export earnings, and Nigeria holding the record of having the largest oil and gas reserves in sub-Saharan Africa, the industry was clogged with questionable licensing deals, multiple middlemen, a lack of refining capacity, and graft in the system. In spite of its vast potential, one of the most contentious areas in negotiating the bill has been the amount of money companies pay to local communities, who pushed for a share of 10% of regional oil wealth from production, but after much ado in the National Assembly, 3% was approved.
The forum, however, rejects in very strong terms the proposed 3% for host community and supports 5% share of the oil revenue to the host communities as recommended by the House of Representatives.
So what changes are expected when the bill is eventually passed by willing government?
I've heard a lot of noise about NNPC being scrapped, but that is not envisaged by the bill at all. We have said that NNPC will be commercialized. But if we are talking about transforming the industry, the only new thing that we are introducing is the development of the midstream. That is the pipeline sector, that sector between the upstream and the downstream.
Its package includes, but not limited to, the selling of shares in the reformed NNPC, the replacement of regulatory bodies, and the reduction and streamlining of royalties. The bill is also expected to provide a conducive environment for international and indigenous companies to thrive and to protect the environment of host communities and drive economic diversification in Nigeria. After all, what the government wants to ultimately achieve is transparency, which the bill promises.
Thanks for staying with us. Well, of course, as you have seen in the welcoming slide, joining us this morning is His Excellency Nyesom Wike, Governor of Rivers State, to talk about all of the issues that, of course, are deviling us, so to speak, in the state of the nations. Thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Thank you very much.
Well, the PIB has to change name from PIB to PIA because it's now an act and not no longer a bill. And then, despite all of the outcries, there are those who say it's a good thing. OPEC says it's a good thing. Some economists are divided about whether or not it will open investment in the sector and the host communities, impacted communities. All of that conversation is still going on around this thing. Your immediate thoughts on all of the issues going on around the PIB or PIA, especially now that it's become a law?
Well, thank you very much. If you ask my take on this, yes, I'm happy. No, I'm not happy. So it's like a yes and no situation. Yes situation. Why? Because for the first time, it has been raging for over 2 decades now, over this Petroleum Industry Act or law, as the case may be. Now it has become a law. So call it Petroleum Industry Act. It has not been easy for previous governments to really come to terms with it and have that, that courage to really pass the bill into law. And you remember the last assembly did all it could. Even though that the Jonathan administration, everything was done to see that bill then was passed into law. So one thing it has done, first of all, is to upload the NNPC and try to create some kind of confidence for the investors in the industry and try to reduce the interference of government. So it's no longer going to be like it used to be, where government interferes in everything that happens in NNPC. It's not going to be like business-like, NNPC has started to be like a limited liability company where it can even go into oil exploration, do what shall do, even outside the country. On that note, we agree, we're happy that it has been done. On the other side of it, as the host communities, as somebody from Niger Delta, what impact, what really has the law got to do with us, what our yearnings, what we're asking for, was really attended to by Mr. President? No. In the sense that we believe that 3% is not enough as regards the kind of pollution, the kind of environmental crisis we have had as a cause of this oil exploration. And I thought what Mr. President would have done was to tell members of the National Assembly, look, yes, you've done what you're supposed to do, but again, it is for you to take into consideration the needs of the host communities. The House of Representatives passed 5%. The Senate said 3%. And I thought that the Senate would have understood that, look, there's the need to really assuage the feelings of the people of the Niger Delta, and that was not to be. And so on that basis, I would say that we are not quite happy because we felt that 3% is not enough to tackle the issues of environmental pollution as regards the oil exploration in our area.
But there are those who will also reference the 13% oil to oil producing derivation to oil producing states or oil bearing states, in the words of Professor Oyebode, that maybe that would have kind of balanced it out. I mean, 3% for host communities and 13% for the states.
No, I don't think so. If you talk about the 13% derivation, who is in control of it? Who is in control of it? Do they allow them to even do what they're supposed to do? So it is not, so if you say 13%, I agree with you. Who are the managers of this 13%? Who directs them on what to do? Have you allowed the people of Niger Delta to really say that these are the people that we want them to manage or superintend over the affairs of the 13%? Certainly not. So somebody sits in Abuja and appoints people to them and does not even allow them to have the control over the management of the funds that are coming to the place.
Let's get this clear. The funds that accrue to the state governments as a result of the 13% derivation, I want to believe that that's from FAC. Is that not correct?
Yes, correct.
That comes directly to the state government, isn't that right?
Yes.
That's in control of the state government, isn't it?
Yes.
The argument of a number of people is that there are other funds that have been appropriated to the state governments to assuage the feeling of, neglect and things of the sort in the Niger Delta. They cite the 13% derivation fund.
Okay.
They cite the NDDC, which is supposed to be an interventionist agency.
Okay.
It's not gone down as planned. Now they have this host. Yes, this 3%. So they say that this is not all that has been earmarked. There's been a lot of focus on this without focusing on the reason why the PIB itself was mooted. The idea of the PIB was mooted, which is now a PIA, according to my colleague. The fact that the oil industries were divesting and that they're trying to attract investment into this industry and maximize what it is that we should have. For instance, we know that the states usually have a pretty tempestuous relationship with the NNPC. There have been quarrels as to what the NNPC is remitting, how the NNPC will say it's taking its own operational costs out of it first before remitting to FAC. Doesn't this fundamentally change what will happen with the NNPC and what eventually will accrue to the generality of the country?
Well, I think there's a mix-up. When your colleague asked the first question of 13%, my thought was talking about NDDC. That's what I was talking about, management of the funds. Okay. Yes, 13% are what we collect from FAC. We can say, for example, that we have used it judiciously. Take for example in my state, I can say so, that we have used it judiciously. And people should also understand, and that is why it is different. The terrain in the Niger Delta is different from the terrain of other areas. Take, for example, if I want to construct a road, say 1 kilometer road in the coastal area, right? That can take you billions of naira, but that can take you hundreds of naira in other areas. So when you begin to talk about 13%, so you sort of appreciate the fact that our terrain is quite difficult than the terrain that in other states. I do not have problem, like I said, I do not have problem that the Petroleum Industrial Act, as it is today, that it is not a good development for the country. I didn't say so. My concern, yes, being a good development for the country, the 3% given to the host community is not enough. And when you take into cognizance, who will manage this 3%? And what is defined as host communities? Who defines who is a host community or not? So we're not quarreling that passing the Petroleum Industrial Act is not good for Nigeria. Nobody's saying that. We're saying that because they want to unbundle the NNPC. But be that as it may, does that really assuage the feelings or the yearnings of the people of Niger Delta?
The thing is, do you think it's a misunderstanding? Because according to those who, make this argument, and one of them is the Minister of State for Petroleum, who happens to come from the Niger Delta. He says there's been a lot of focus on this 3% as if that were the only monies that was going to accrue to the Niger Delta. Do you think it is a...
I would not want to take on the statement made by the Honorable Minister of State Petroleum, my good friend Silva. I do know that he's saying that because today is the Minister of Petroleum. If he was the governor of Bayelsa State, he would say a different thing. Because at that point, he knows the feelings of his people. He knows the reaction from his people. Today is the minister, he has to defend the government.
Does he?
Yes, he's defending the government. He knows right inside him that that is not what you would have asked for. So it is not, I do believe he's not speaking because he's happy. He's speaking because that is the voice of the government. And there's nothing he can do about it. Yes. But I do know that if he was sitting as governor today of Bayelsa State, he wouldn't say that. With all due respect, he wouldn't say that. Because he knows if he says that, it will be good for him to go home.
Some people say it's a matter of perspective. Because it is true that that's not the only money accruing to the Niger Delta.
The mere fact that it's not enough. Do you understand? Okay, take for example. For how many years we're talking about the cleaning of Ogoni land? For how many years now? That in the entire environment of the people, totally condemned. How do you quantify it with the money? How do you talk about the debt? How do you talk about how their means of livelihood? They cannot have it. So what money can you use?
If that's the argument, will any amount of money ever be sufficient?
No, that is not the point. But there are certain things you will do. People say, yes, we appreciate that you now have looked into the construction. Well, we're not saying that even if you want to give human beings home money, that does not mean that to be enough. But the point is that you cannot say, okay, take for example, You are giving us 3% as host communities, or what we call oil-bearing communities. And you are giving 30% to frontier states to go out and look for exploration of oil. How does it work? How do you reconcile that? Now, you have gotten oil here. You are exploring oil from this place. And in doing that, they have problems, environmental problems. And then you're also taking 30% from the profit of an NNPC to go and look for oil. I mean, how do you balance it?
I think there are at least two issues now. There's whether or not that money, the 3%, is enough. I mean, some have said 5%, 10%, or even more. But there's another issue, which is how the monies should actually be spent. And I think you referenced that earlier on. So how should those monies be spent? 3%, for example, such that you said you don't want it to go the way of the NDDC. So how should it be spent in such a way that the people will at least say 3% is not what we want, but at least it's doing something good?
Well, I've not seen the full details of the law, of the act, but I believe from what I was told that in the law it is said that the money will be paid directly to the host communities to manage, right? And that government and the operators will be able to identify people in the communities that will manage it from. But however, the money will be paid directly. Now, who defines who is a host community? Now, they say the operators will define who is a host community. How can a businessman define that where he's doing business, that it's a social community? I believe that that is wrong. I believe that's wrong. I think that that has to be determined by government.
Doesn't the businessman know where he's doing his business?
Let me tell you why. That could pose a problem. I've seen the involvement of most of these IOCs in communities. I've seen how most IOCs try to put two communities together in order for them not to do what they're supposed to do. And then they tell at the end of the day, you see, we're having problems. This community has gone to court that they are not supposed to deal with this community. It has always happened. Even in terms of spending or managing these funds, it will create a problem. I can assure you, knowing the modus operandi of these IOCs, you will see that it will be difficult. They will sponsor a faction of the community to make sure that such funds are not being spent. And they tell you, we have a court injunction not to release the money. We know the activities.
You already foresee a sabotage?
No, but because, take for example, I know the antecedent. You've been a business person in this community, in this state, in this country. So we know how you operate. We know your conduct. When it concerns communities, when it concerns you fulfilling your memorandum of understanding. In fact, in some cases, they sponsor chieftaincy struggle. Yes, they do. In order for them not to carry out their responsibility.
That when the people are against themselves, I think essentially it should start from the people saying we need to be one first before any bill, any act comes in.
No, but I was thinking that government would have had a hand in order to monitor the spending of such funds. That's my own thinking. Not just to allow it. You're not paying to government. I do agree. You don't need to pay to government. But paying to the host community, leaving them alone, would cause a lot of crisis. There should have been something to checkmate the communities in order not to have crisis. I can assure you that sending the money directly to the communities for them to spend for development purposes, I have no problem. But how do you checkmate the use of that fund? And I can tell you, knowing the IOCs very well, that what they will do is to sponsor classes for them not to sell such funds to them. That has always been the case.
Your Excellency, now already you're raising issues around the implementation of this law. And many people also reference the fact that sometimes it's not a problem of us having excellently drafted laws, excellently prepared policies and all of that, but in the implementation. Now it is law. Laws have to be implemented. How do you suggest we should be approaching it?
Well, first of all, like I said, I've not seen the full details. So it is when you have seen the full details of the act, then you'll be able to look at the pros and cons or the deficiencies. This, what we are saying today, like I said before, you pass a bill in the National Assembly, it goes to the president. sometimes they look at it and see where they could make amendments or whatever. It's just like appropriation bill when it passes into law. So it will be difficult. Like I said here now, what we are told is that the host community will be determined by the operators. What we are told that the funds will be sent directly to the host community, right? And I'm saying if that is the case, then there are problems. And such problems, it is necessary to nip them in the bud. And one of that, you don't allow the community just like that to spend such funds, that there will be a loophole, knowing the antecedents of the IOCs, to cause crisis in the community, for them not to be able to release such funds to them.
Shouldn't communities themselves also have these kinds of communication between themselves so that that kind of friction that is possible could be stemmed?
I mean, we are talking as if we are not human. We are talking as if we are not human. You're also talking about money, right? You're also talking about money. I have told you from my own experience as chairman of council, and even as governor of a state, that memorandum of understanding are drawn between communities and companies. These are what the company will provide, right? Even at that, I have sat in a situation where you find out that there's a division in the community.
So essentially, I mean, and I want to quickly move on to the next question now. Essentially, what you're saying is, yes, the law has been signed, or the bill has been signed into law, but the politics still needs to be managed.
That's the point I'm making. And
yes,
in doing that, you need to have provided a section where government will have a role to play.
In other words, the state government should also take an interest in this particular law.
Yeah, but from what I was told, having not read the act, has been assented to by Mr. President, that government has no role. That's the point I'm trying to make.
That's the state government?
Yes. After when I say government, I mean which government? Whether it's local government or whether it's state government. But the funds are released directly from what we are told, that the funds will be released directly to the host
community. Well,
you referenced Ogoniland the other time, and the conversation is ongoing, all efforts of the federal government and all of that. But then there was that ruling that Shell should pay $42.9 to...
That is a different thing altogether. That is a case that lasted for over 30 years about Ebubu and some communities in Eleme local government, which is part of Ogoni area, that went to court over oil spillage. And that matter has lingered over years, up to not less than 30 years now. And at the end of the day, the court gave judgment up to Supreme Court, affirmed the judgment. Of course, Shell tried to say that they can frustrate the implementation of that judgment. In fact, that led to when some of the Shell assets were being auctioned by the court, and which the State government indicated interest and bought over Shell's interest in OML 11 and the Kidney Island. But I'm happy today that Shell has come to terms to see that, look, I have discussed with the lawyers of the community, and I've come to the look, we are willing to pay about 45 billion. So I thank God that there's a reprieve for the community, and that, of course, will show that there's an end to this the litigation process is coming to an end. So that is the situation as regards the judgment of the Federal High Court down to the Supreme Court.
But how do you see that really assuaging the cries of the people of Ogoniland?
It is not the entire Ogoni. This oil spillage has to do with a particular or some communities in Eleme local government, which is part of the Ogoni area. You know, Eleme is local government, but part of the Ogoni, right? So it's a lot to do with generally the Ogoni environmental pollution. But what we're trying to say that the environmental pollution that took place in Ogoni for years, decades of years, the government has not been able to clean up that for people to go back to have their means of livelihood, which they have been promising and promising and promising, and up to like I said, nothing tangible has been done.
Well, since we're in the court, pardon me, I mean the recent judgment, the Federal High Court in Port Harcourt about VAT collections and the rest. I mean, we're talking revenue, funds, and it's always a big deal. Federal government, state governments, who should collect what. And I'd like us to delve into this because it's a big deal. First, the state got that judgment in favor. FIR is said to be appealing that judgment. But if we could just take a few steps back in the first place, what motivated you, your state specifically? This has been on for a while. So what motivated the states to take the step in the first place?
Well, first of all, you know, we run a system, we say it's a federal system. And the federal system means that you have component units that make up the structure. You have the federal government, you have the state government. And there are functions as provided, which functions must be exclusive for the federal government, which functions must be concurrent between the federal and state government, and which function must be residual, that is for the state government. Yes, something could have started over years. The mere fact that people did not challenge it does not mean that so nobody will challenge it tomorrow. And that we felt as a state that, look, states have been, you know, have been encapsulated. States have been enslaved by the federal government. States have turned to be beggars. Every state is poor. What happens? You rush to the federal government. When in the real sense, you have areas where you should raise revenue to take care of your states. And such areas has to do with, you know, collection of taxes. And part of it is this VAT. There have been that contention that no, VAT should be or is within the purview of the federal government. And with some states, like our own state, said, no, we don't think so. And it's not something you have to fight over it. It's something you have to, okay, let us go to court and ask for the interpretation. Who actually is responsible for the collection of these taxes? And that's what we did. And it is not just for the interest of River State. It is for the interest of the entire state. That this argument, propaganda people carry. Oh no, don't allow that to be stated. There are some states that will be losing out. That is not correct. Take for example, if federal government collects VAT and they give to, say, Adamawa State 200 million a month. But I can tell you, if Adamawa State collects that tax by themselves, they will make over 600 million.
How?
The point I'm making, what FIR is collecting, they are giving you peanuts. It is your own responsibility. Take, for example, I awarded a job, or I awarded jobs to contractors. And the VAT federal government collect from that job, it's about 6 billion. Take, for example, I paid out about 40-something billion some times ago. 7.5% of 40-something billion is how much? For those of you who are good in mathematics. That's just 1 month. Now, if you take it, it's not less than 3 billion. So 2.something billion, 3 billion. But I've never had in any month. That is just for just few contracts given out. But I've never had in any month as VAT allocation to my state up to 2 billion. So you tell me, this is job awarded by the state government. You tell me somebody buys a property in River State or buys land in River State and he develops the land and he sells. Federal government said, no, they are supposed to collect the tax from that sale. I mean, does it make sense? It doesn't. And FIRS knows the fact that these taxes they are collected are illegal taxes. They are not supposed to. It is the duty of the state. And what did they do? In order to think that, yes, let us beat them to the gate, they are very smart, they wrote to the National Assembly to amend the Constitution to put VAT under the exclusive list of the federal government. If they knew that what they were collecting or the VAT they are collecting, they are entitled to it, why then are they writing to the National Assembly to amend the Constitution to bring in this, to be under the exclusive list?
Well, my apologies. We need to take a short break now, but there is so much to unpack in this. I mean, a number of states have also gone this route that you took now, but they didn't succeed. So what are the differences in all those cases? We'll take all of that on when we return from this break. Do stay with us. Thanks for staying with us, Your Excellency. A number of states, have gone through this route before, and they always went as far as the Supreme Court. And over again, it's always the story around, look, you do not have the right. The case in point is the 2014 judgment that went as far as the Supreme Court, Lagos State government and the federal government, about who should be collecting VAT and all of that. And so I'm just wondering, is the litigation initiated by Rivers State government different, the prayers different from that of the previous?
I do not think there are any pronouncement by the Supreme Court on the issue of VAT. If there was no way the Federal High Court have given this judgment in our favor. And so it will be difficult for anybody to say that there has been Supreme Court judgment on the issue of VAT. I do know that it has to do with issue of the parties. I don't have full facts about if Lagos State went to court, but I know that there was issue of stamp duty, not necessarily of VAT. In the issue of stamp duty. So the point I'm trying to make, there has not been any pronouncement by the Supreme Court as regards to the issue of VAT. That's the point I'm trying to make.
You have said that you want this, that this is going to benefit the states.
Yeah.
Now, there are those in the financial sector who have looked at that particular ruling and said, well, it will only benefit about 6 states, which are currently contributing, making the bulk of that. And even the way they look at it, the federal government might even be happy with this ruling, because after Lagos, the FCT is the second highest city with the highest number of VAT collection, so to speak.
How would the FCT be?
Well, that's from the breakdown of VAT collection. After Lagos, it is the FCT. So perhaps the federal government also has other taxes that it collects at the borders, that the VAT collects at the border, something about import VAT or VAT related to import. So they're saying that what essentially will happen is that about 30 other states might not be happy with this ruling because they do not exactly contribute a lot to the VAT basket. How do you think that's going to work with this other states?
Let me just say this, for example. What we're asking, what we're saying, what you are collecting, are you entitled to collect? The mere fact whether state A or B will be the beneficiaries of that does not matter. What you are collecting, are you entitled to collect it?
Okay, let me ask.
So I'm even coming to the second part of it. The second part of it, it is not correct that other states will not benefit. It is not correct. That is what they sell out to states in order not to support. It is not correct. Like I've said here, take for example, I've given you the example of Rivers State, where I've awarded contracts to the tune of these amounts, right? And this is the VAT for that particular month that were collected.
Let me quickly read out this report to you. This is from PwC. It's a PwC report, PricewaterhouseCoopers. It says, ironically, the biggest losers will be the states except Lagos. A few states like Kano, Rivers, Oyo, Kaduna, Delta, and Katsina may experience minimal impact, while at least 30 states, which account for less than 20% of VAT collection, will suffer significant revenue decline. The federal government may, in fact, be better off, given that the FCT generates the second highest VAT after Lagos, in addition to import and non-import foreign VAT.
Yes. That's not my problem. What I'm saying is, first of all, the mere fact that you are doing something to benefit every state, for example. And what you are doing is illegal.
Let me ask you, what exactly is the big deal with collection of taxes? Because some people will say
that... It's not a big deal. Take, for example, we're talking about a source of revenue.
No, let me quickly refine this.
Yes.
What I mean is that when you do collect tax, there will be a cost attached to the collection. You will have to have an office for the collection of tax, and well, you have to put a machinery in place to be able to collect this tax. And if you think about the fact that already states get 75% collected from their states, What exactly was why is collection of taxes by states extremely important?
Listen, I don't know why that should be a problem. What I'm saying is this. The law says it is my responsibility to collect social tax. If I have no capacity to collect, it's within my purview to get somebody who will collect that tax for me. I'm not just saying that you are collecting tax without my authority. So it is not an issue of whether what is there that, oh, you have to set up a... We have our own revenue board. They collect some of our taxes. We are not saying they are not doing well. They are doing very well, right? So the issue is not what is the issue about this collection of taxes.
No, maybe I should refine that question.
Okay.
I guess what I mean to say, is there an added benefit when states are able to collect VAT?
Why not? Take for what I'm saying. You are sharing what, take for example, I'm supposed to get 3 billion. Yeah, you are denying me from getting that 3 billion a month. If my revenue board goes for the collection and gets the 3 billion for me, that will help me to put on my development projects.
In other words, you would not remit anything to the federal government?
On this issue, no.
I see.
No.
So nothing is now going to get to the federal government.
They are
Everything is now going
for
to
the collection of VAT.
Okay, so whoever collects
But if they are the one that the state should manage, and then you share 50 or whatever ratio, it's a different thing. We have always said that the issue of VAT should be collected by the state.
Collected and kept. I think that's extremely important.
No, collected by the state because it is the state that's supposed to tax the citizens on that area. And because, of course, you know how our system works. Maybe nobody has cared to say, look, let us challenge this. Let there be a pronouncement by the court on this. So we can raise this matter once and for all.
Your Excellency, you know why I'm trying to, I'm emphasizing, because when you talk about collection, I think the bone of contention is actually when you collect the tax, it's about the states keeping the tax that they have collected. Isn't that correct?
Yes.
In other words, nothing is now going to be remitted. If you collect 100 billion, for instance, as VAT in River State, it means the River State government is entitled to keep that 100 billion.
Taxes, for example.
No, VAT. I'm being very specific.
Yes.
In other words, nothing is remitted from VAT to the federal government.
Yes.
Okay.
But some other taxes, well, like stamp duties, the states may collect and share with the federal government.
That's extremely important.
That's what I'm saying. But the issue of that is to be collected by the state, for the state.
Indeed.
That's the point we're making. And that's why everybody has a clamoring for, look, this is supposed to be collected by the state because it is state revenue that ought to come to the state. And like I said, because nobody challenged it yesterday, does not mean that nobody will challenge it today. If nobody has challenged it today, does not mean to not be challenged tomorrow.
Have you gotten any reaction from your brother governors?
I've been called by not less than 20 governors.
20 governors?
Yes, not less than 20 governors.
So they don't feel threatened in any way by this judgment?
How can they be threatened? I told you this report by the Price Water, whatever you.
Price Water House Coopers.
Yes, it is not correct. I've given you the analogy. We have seen VAT allocation every month when they come back from FAC. And you look at each of the states. Those states are talking about may lose out. I can tell you, if you allow those states to collect the money by themselves, they are better off.
How far?
This argument is just to make some states not to support the idea. There is a divide and rule system. When you say the federal government will be better off, how would they be better off? If they are killing themselves, what is the essence of it? They want to make the states to be comfortable? Is that what the federal government is doing? It's not correct.
So how far?
Somebody collects about 8 trillion. You are here when they say they collected 8 trillion in a quarter. Then FRC they take 4% for the collection. 4% of 8 trillion is how much? And what are they doing? No, tell me what are they doing? I am the one sending the VAT for you. I have just said here, Minister of Finance, it makes the money to you. So how did you collect it?
Well, they are appealing the judgment already.
We are not afraid of that. Appealing judgment does not a stay of execution. We are saying it is not an issue of whether we must win. was an issue that must be laid to rest once and for all. That we need a judicial pronouncement on this issue. And that is what we're concerned about. It's not about Rivers State winning or any other state winning or losing. No. There should be a judicial pronouncement on this matter. Because it's a matter that has been ranging for years.
Right.
So I don't want to buy the idea somebody collected 4% of what I have suffered to collect. Like I said, we are remitting such amount of money to you. What is the effort? What did you help the state? This is money paid by the state to contractors, and we deduct taxes, and then sent to you. And you are collecting 4% of it for collection. Tell me what machinery do you put in place? What machinery?
So how far are states willing to go with this now? I mean, FIRS has appealed. We don't know what the future holds. But would you go further to say, I mean, retrospectively, what has happened over the past years? Would you ask the federal government to pay back to the states?
Obviously, at the end of the day, we'll get consultants to find out how much did FIRS collect from River State and how much was given to us. The balance, they have to refund the money to us. It's our money.
From how many years back?
It doesn't matter how many years.
The law, the VAT law, I think, is as far as 1993.
It is not an issue. It is not an issue. It is not an issue. If you have collected my money for the past 20 years, nothing stops me from taking it back. It's not an issue.
But how significant do you think this will be in the income of the federal government? Of course, the federal government continues.
Why not talk about how will it improve the income of the state?
We'll come to that, Your
No, because you are talking about federal government. Federal government. Can there be a federal government without states?
But state governors also sit in the National Economic Council. And so some of these issues, I'm pretty sure, have been raised over time.
Who presides over the National Economic Council?
The federal government.
So what are we talking about? So what are we talking about?
So you don't think that this will have any significant impact on the pulse of the federal government?
The federal government has a lot of areas to improve their revenue. So many areas to collect. You see, we should not emancipate the states. You don't need to make the states to be beggars. As it is today, virtually, how many states can really survive without rushing to Abuja to beg money for one assistance or the other? How many? You had the other time we went to federal government for bailout. You have a flood problem, you run to federal government. Why? Because areas that you're supposed to raise funds, to raise revenue, have been taken away by the federal government.
Successful, pardon me. So states have no reason whatsoever to go to the federal government cap in hand.
No, what we're trying to say, there are some problems you could have that the state cannot carry. But virtually now, as it is today, there's no state, apart from one or two states or three, that do not rush to federal government to beg any time, any day. See, there could be some crisis, there could be something that you never expected, we don't pray for it. Just take, for example, what happened in Haiti. Such kind of natural disaster happens. The state government may not be able to carry it. You need the support of the federal government. But the ones that the state can do should be allowed for them to do it. That's the point I'm making. You don't take away everything from the state and to turn them to a beggar status. No, that's not correct. That's not the essence of federalism. And there's no country that runs a federal state that you can say state A and state B are equal. No, it's never done. No, there's nowhere. You may have an advantage over this above this other state. This state may have an advantage over in some factors. So when you say some states will suffer, that is not the truth.
But you said the other time, Your Excellency, that when you remit the VAT before this judgment, when you remit the VAT to the federal government shares it among states, and you who donated, so to speak, a particular chunk of it, you get only a fraction back. And some other states who do not remit VAT as much as you do, they get quite a significant chunk. That's why perhaps the basis of that PwC report that some states are going to be negatively.
No, I don't agree with that analogy. Take, for example, I have said here that whatever each state receives is less of what they collect. That's the point I'm making. you are giving state A, Adamawa State, for example, you said this month, you are allocating 200 million from VAT to them. And I'm saying that if Adamawa is allowed to collect the VAT by themselves, then Adamawa will make more than 200 million naira. That's the point I'm saying.
In other words, there will be an incentive for Adamawa State.
So you don't begin to compare what Adamawa is making as to what River State is making. It is not possible. But the point we are making is that even what you are giving to River State is not commensurate to what I pay out as the fact you are talking about. So you can bring this argument to tell people that, look, it is some states will lose.
Well,
therefore, there's no need for our states to collect the VAT. No, it is not correct. What we are saying, whether some states will lose or not, what they are collecting is illegal. That's the issue. We won't because, okay, are you saying that because it will benefit everybody, so there should be a fraction of the Constitution?
Well, talking about the Constitution, Your Excellency, a Constitution amendment is currently ongoing, and I'm sure that a number of states will be looking at what is going on. Does the River State government, or do you, as from where you sit and the position you occupy, are you interested in the Constitution amendment process?
How would you ask every Nigerian whether they're interested in the Constitution amendment when people have raised the issue about Constitution amendment, how that the country is not working well, that because of the Constitution we have, there should be some kind of amendments to take care of certain things that were not in the state at the time the Constitution was passed. So I'm not to talk about being a governor. You are telling me whether I will have an interest. Why not? Why would I not have an interest? There are so many issues.
For a new constitution altogether, but this is particularly on the amendment. So you are for the amendment, not for a new constitution.
We're talking about constitutional amendment now. We're not talking about the new constitution.
No, not everyone is on the same page with amendment.
The issue today is constitutional amendment. So that is our interest for them. Whether people are asking for a new constitution, that is not on the table. What's on the table? The constitutional amendment. National Assembly have gone to zones, according to them, to hear the opinion from stakeholders. Fine. States have already prepared their own position. And when National Assembly finishes, they will return to the State Assembly to concur or say no. It is at that time that the state will discuss with the Assembly and say it's the interest of the state.
What areas are fundamental?
I will not, okay, generally.
Yes.
So that I will not want to be specific on what area River State will want, so that people will not think that, oh, this is the views of maybe governors and this is where we're going to. Generally, people are talking about restructuring. People are talking about true fiscal federalism. People are talking about, giving a sense of belonging to allow women to have certain percentage and to political offices. So all those kinds of things. People are talking about state police. That it's important to have a state police. So many.
Is that something you support, state police, the idea of it?
I think today every Nigerian supports state police. I think today every Nigerian, the structure and whatever is a different thing. But whether state police is the thing that must come to be, it is taken. I don't think.
Yes.
And I don't think there's any state as it is today would refuse state police. I mean, obviously, the issue of security is very germane.
It is indeed. I was just going to ask you if you were confident, because there are those who have raised issue with the process, and they think, well, this is not the first time we're having a constitutional amendment process. What big difference has it really made? Are you confident that this time around, at the end of this particular process, we will see fundamental changes that would move us forward as a people?
I think, you see, the point where I have always said, there's no document you can bring today that can be a perfect document. So all you do is to continue. Americans have many amendments on their constitution. You must have faith in things. You cannot say, today, show me one document you can say there's a perfect document. No, there's none. But as time goes on from time to time, you make amendments
to
suit the circumstances at that time.
You know why I've asked you? Because a number of people who are in your political party, as a result of, what has been going on with the, there have been a lot of landmark attempts by this National Assembly to move some landmark decisions. For instance, the PIB, which was recently signed by the President, the Electoral Act, which has also come under amendment. The manner in which it has gone, for a number of people, they say, if this is how the National Assembly is going to handle this, then we do not think anything good is going to come out of this Constitution amendment.
The difference in this case, the amendment of the Constitution does not solely lie with the National Assembly, but amendment of the Electoral Act and the rest is their own responsibility. So they could do whatever they want to do. But after the constitutional amendment, you require the states. So you can't just sit in the Senate or the House of Representatives to say, we have amended the Constitution. No. For whatever they have decided, you must send it back to the states. So the states can say no or yes. So nobody should have that here. And so the states have a role to play, unlike the amendment of the Electoral Act and the amendment of the Petroleum Industry Act. So those things are different.
Yeah, Your Excellency, another leg to the question mark we're asked is the issue of trust. Do you think people still trust the process, so to speak?
The process has not, the process has commenced. You see, if it is a situation where the National Assembly solely will decide, I don't think that people have that trust. But the confidence people have today that the amendment of the Constitution would get to the states. But if it is solely the responsibility of the National Assembly, I can tell you, go home. But that's not to come out of it.
But it's the responsibility of the National Assembly to amend the Electoral Act.
Yes, it is their responsibility.
You make it seem like as if the states are united and they are just one entity. Let's not forget that each state is going to have its own interest, and you will need two-thirds.
But two, there are also other. That's what I'm saying.
Yes.
You require two-thirds to pass it.
24 states to pass it.
There are so many issues, clause by clause.
Are you confident that states will be able to muscle that amount?
Take for example, the federal government may not be in support of state police. But you have two-thirds of the states that say they need state police. So in that case, state police will pass. There are other issues that you may not pass, because these are done clause by clause. So whichever way, if the two-thirds is in support of this, so be it. But the point we are making is that at least the states have a role to play as regards the constitutional amendment. Unlike the Electoral Act, we are just shouting, and they said, to hell with you. We'll do whatever we want to do.
Was that what transpired? Or a number of people raised valid reasons about how, network is not exactly very good in their areas?
I mean, let us tell ourselves the truth. You see, there are things that I tell people that, irrespective of the fact that you came to a political party, a party is a vehicle that conveys you to a particular destination, right? We're talking about what is good for Nigeria. We're not talking about what is good for your party. I can't believe it. In this today Nigeria, in today's world, that anybody calls himself a National Assembly lawmaker will vote against the transmission of results electronically. I can't believe it. I can't believe that. I can't believe this. Even if my party says this is what they want, is that what is suitable for Nigeria? We're talking about how would we conduct credible, transparent election. Mr. President gave Nigerians the assurance that one of the legacies he will leave is to make sure that Nigerians will have credible, transparent election. And one of the steps to show transparency is let the results be transmitted electronically. You remember, when Mr. President was declared the winner of that election in 2015, he had always said that the introduction of the candidate was a good innovation. And we thought he would have improved on that to show, look, what I saw in 2015, if that was not there, probably I would have been rigged out. So he praised President Jonathan then, right? And what I was saying now, instead of improving on that, we're going back. And I can't believe that a ruling party that have assured Nigerians that, in fact, to tell you how you cannot throw the system. The chairman of INEC, Senate, who recommended this electronic transmission of results, voted against it. Can you imagine that? I'm the chairman of the committee that made this recommendation. I went to the floor of Senate. I voted what I recommended. I voted against what I recommended. Now, if you are the one, or if such a person is your father, or is your uncle, or somehow you know him, will you not walk down to him? Uncle, Dad, come on. What's the problem? You are the chairman of the committee. You recommended this.
Perhaps you didn't agree with them in the committee.
It does not matter, but you are the chairman. You would have said no. But you said yes, you signed. And then you went to the floor of the Senate and voted against it.
He has to carry what the committee says. He's not it's not
that is
one...
the point. No, the point I'm making. You are the chairman of the committee.
Indeed.
That is what they've said. Minority view. You put the minority view committee out, but the money has been taken. That gives you that backing. But having signed no opposition, I cannot be a chairman of a committee. Okay. That has made a recommendation. And then in voting, I said, oh, my party said I should vote no. What? That tells on my credibility. Okay. That tells on my credibility. Instead, I would abstain.
Your Excellency, there's more about this that we can unpack, but we'll take it further when we come from this break. Do stay with us. Thanks for staying with us. His Excellency Nyesom Wike, Governor of Rivers State, is still with us. So, well, Your Excellency, this conversation is not just going to go away. And there is no way we will talk about this Electoral Act with this amendment when it comes to play without talking about the elections of 2023. And that the electronic transmission is not the only thing in that law. One of those other issues is the increase in party funding, political party spending for the elections. Are you concerned about that increment?
Political parties spending, for me, has nothing to do with the credibility of election. You see, first of all, I mean, we should not chase shadows. That the party is spending such an amount of money does not affect the conduct of an election. What Nigerians are talking about now, conduct of election. For us to have confidence that those that have the mandate are declared as winners.
Is that somehow introduction of any electronic means by the umpire has always not been received well by the party in power. We found that out with the card readers. There was stiff opposition against INEC at the time the card readers was introduced.
By who?
By the party in power, by the PDP.
It is not correct. Remember, the president was under PDP. If PDP had opposed it, INEC wouldn't have introduced that card reader.
Oh,
PDP never opposed it.
There was stiff opposition against. I remember very clearly your
Mr. President couldn't have supported it, and you said the PDP will oppose it. No, certainly not. But that does not mean that you may not have. I mean, it's a natural thing. For example,
has the president opposed the introduction? The president hasn't done that.
He's fully in support of non-transmission of electronic. He's fully in support.
Has he said it?
He doesn't need to say. He should veto it. He should veto it to say no. This is not the promise I made to Nigerians.
But
I told Nigerians, one legacy I will leave for is to conduct free, fair, transparent election.
Only one arm of the National Assembly, only one, that's the Senate, has vetoed that. I mean, or has passed that. The House of Representatives has given the leeway to INEC to do as it pleases.
It's neither here nor there. It's neither here nor there. I mean, what is that? You remember the chaos, the confusion that happened in the House of Representatives. You remember that people walked out to tell you how important that issue was as at that time. Look, we are talking about 2023. We're talking about how we can give people should have confidence in the results that will come out.
So your recommendation now is that the president should veto it?
He should. If Mr. President says, one legacy I will leave, or one of the legacies I'm going to leave, is to conduct a free and fair. And the first step of that, to show that you want to conduct a transparent election, is let the result be transmitted electronically. And then your party went to this, and overwhelmingly voted against it. What does it imply? Do you need to tell me that Mr. President is not aware? I mean, we're all Nigerians. You mean that even those I respected to be people who have conscience, to the point that we are a chairman who signed the recommendation, even voted against it, because they are now playing party politics against interests of Nigerians.
Well, let us play a hypothetical situation. Assuming the 2023 elections were here now, is your party ready? We've seen enough shenanigans around the inner workings of your party. You spent a huge chunk of time in Abuja recently over what has been happening in your party. Is there a resolution now?
What is the problem in our party?
Are you saying there was no rumbling in your party asking the NWC to resign?
You are the journalist. You get information more than us.
You are the party member.
No, but because why I said so, you remember, you people said I stormed to BOT meeting when I'm not a member of BOT. And which is not correct. That's what I say. I don't know the information you have. Well, so I'll be able to explain.
There were reasons why you were at the BOT meeting.
Because as a member of BOT, a meeting was called.
Indeed.
Yes.
I mean, it's not the first time BOT meetings have been called. I'm sure those who cover the PDP know that, well, when BOT meetings are called, they know the usual.
They've never covered the BOT meeting. They only covered NEC meeting.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, you were at this BOT meeting, and there were several meetings held back to back. Isn't that correct? And there were over issues in your party. Eventually, you had to read out the resolutions that were reached at the end of the day.
You see, now you are coming out. Because when you say problems in the party, I think you should be specific. And so let me know the area I'm talking about. Obviously...
Are there many problems in the party, Your Excellency?
No. Obviously, you cannot say going towards 2023 that you don't have some kinds of conflicts between individuals or groups. It is always that in politics. Like you said, are we ready? If you go to the public and ask Nigerians, is PDP ready to take over power in 2023? If you take a referendum, you would know that Nigerians are really waiting for PDP to take over. But the fear of Nigerians is PDP ready to take over power. Why are they asking that? That they have not seen it. And people like us are concerned about it. Because, obviously, it is right for PDP to take over. But you must be prepared to take over power. And from what we have seen, I will say, look, it doesn't matter what anybody may say. With what we have now, it will be difficult to take over the rest of power in 2023 if there are no amendments.
What were the problems?
Leadership. Leadership. You see, people must always understand this in life. You can be a good coach, doing very well, but there comes a season, hard luck may come. The management will not say, I'm not a good coach. They say, well, there's nothing we can do. You did well last year, but this year you're not doing well. That is the person. No, I think we have to look for alternative. The point I'm trying to make is that the present NWC, as it is today, cannot lead PDP to victory. It doesn't matter what anybody will say. Nobody has said they've not done well one way or the other. But we're talking about as it is now, to face the challenges ahead. Can they lead this party to victory? It is not sentiment. It is not what anybody may want to say. The truth of the matter is that there are people who must come out to speak out. Just like I said, on the issue of VAT, it is not benefit to Rivers State. It's not. But I said, look, things are going wrong. I have to come out. I said, look, I won't wait because A, state did not speak. When the Rivers State government challenged the federal government on the issue of police trust fund, it is not because of Rivers State. What you are doing is illegal. It will not make the country to move forward. So when I'm seeing that, presently, as it is now, and somebody who loves his party, somebody who has a lot to lose if the party does not regain power. And somebody will tell me I should not speak out. Somebody will tell me you don't need to talk out. No, it will not be so. I owe a duty to my party to make sure we position ourselves to take over power in 2023.
This is not about presidential ambition because...
Is there anything you do, people will not read minutes? Is there anything you do? You know, it's very funny.
Are you denying that you have any presidential ambition?
Am I not qualified to have a presidential ambition? But for Christ's sake, have I met anybody, whether a retired general or whatever it is, that I would want to run for presidency? But that also does not mean that you can use that to intimidate me. No. Things are wrong in the party, and you speak out, and somebody somewhere tells you you are doing this because you want to hijack the party. Hijack for what? And these are the same people who before said, I'm the one directing what is happening in the party. If I was the one directing what's happening in the party, and I'm not saying that, okay, the party is not doing well, so what am I hijacking?
Your Excellency, just let me quickly clarify
Yes.
this. Are you confirming to us that you do nurse presidential ambitions for 2023?
I have never told anybody that I have presidential ambition. But nobody should also say, I'm not qualified to run for president of this country.
That's neither here nor there.
No, but the point I'm saying that if I'm prepared to run for presidency, I will let the world know. But it's not for you to say, are you running for presidency? No, first of all, you don't run for presidency without due consultation. You don't just wake up in the morning, I want to run for president. You don't wake up in the morning without telling your family. There are things you must do. But the point I'm making, presidency is neither here or there. For you to be a president, you must have a party.
So this morning...
So when you don't have a party, how do you go and run for president? So first thing first, keep your party in order to make sure they can face the challenges coming. It is not sentiment. If the party is not in order, what is the president that you're going to run? Tell me.
So you're not ruling it out? You're not ruling it out?
Ruling what out?
Presidential ambition.
I have not told you I will run. Neither have I told you I will not run.
Maybe let me try to simplify this for Nigerians. This morning when you woke up, did you have a presidential ambition, or do you have a presidential ambition?
Mister, when I woke up this morning,
I said you cannot just wake up in the morning and say, I want to run for president. So this morning, when you woke up, did you have it in mind that I'm running for president?
No, I did not. But that does not mean that tomorrow I will wake up, I will not have.
Interesting. Now, you talked about the NNPC.
But as of this morning,
right.
As of this morning, I don't have that. But that does not mean that tomorrow I will not have.
And I'm sure you keep us updated.
Of course.
If that changes.
As time to, like I said, it is not, you see, the problem we have in this country, and I must say it. You remember, if you can take a man back, when Mudu Sharif was the caretaker chairman, he must have read, oh, it was the governor of Rivers State that brought him, which was not correct. But you see, there are people by their own creation, the way God created them. They can't see things going wrong and they keep quiet. You don't need everybody to like you. Say what is right and move on. When I saw that Mudu Sharif was trying to crumble our party, I said no. We challenged it, we fought it, and rescued our party. Nobody then said he wanted the one that I was trying to hijack the party. Some people look, take for example, no matter the way you look at it, if as an NNPC, you are the leadership of the party, you are the one that bring about the policies and how the party is going to move forward. You are not members of any party. But as members of the public, in your own mind, tell me, do you believe that PDP is ready to take over. You are not members of any party. But frankly speaking to yourself, as it is today, if you take a referendum for the public, will you not see the result will be no? But if you take a referendum to Nigerians, do they want PDP? Yes.
I think Nigerians want good governance, better governance.
No, it's not
whether or not PDP can provide that is another conversation.
Because the present party is not providing the good governance, it's not providing what Nigeria. So Nigerian alternative, and the only alternative, as it is today, of any other political party, is PDP.
Yeah,
Forget about.
The Nigerians who say we've tested the PDP,
yes.
that's the reason
listen,
we kicked them out to put the APC. Maybe we should try a third option.
You see, you've not answered my question. I said this. Yes. I said, tell us the truth. You're not members of any party.
But these are the opinions that we've curated. There are people who have said that, you know, the APC and PDP have failed us. Perhaps
no. The point I'm asking you, first of all,
option.
let us not mix up issues. The issue is this. I asked you a question. I said, look, in your innermost mind, you're not members of any party, but you're members of the public. You listen, you hear, and you read a lot. You asked me a question that, is PDP ready to take over power? You asked that question. And I said, look, there are two things. Are Nigerians ready for PDP? Yes. But is PDP ready? It's a different thing.
Is that a yes or a no as well?
No. That's what I'm saying. Oh. That as it is today, and that's why we are pushing for the party to have other people to lead the party, to give a different, a different strength altogether. Because we are going to attack, you see, if you know this APC, you need a robust, determined leadership of the party to make sure you match them words by words, action by action. Okay, I can tell you that. And with what is going on in PDP now, with the way the governors have spoken in unity, with the way the BOT and senior leaders of the party have come up with a position to say, look, we want our party to move on. We don't want crisis in our party. We're not a ruling party. And everybody said, look, okay, make amends, let's do this, let's do that. Okay. And I believe all those who love the party will abide to that, except you are an agent. You are an agent of the ruling party. But if you're not an agent of the ruling party, there's no way any well-thinking party member or anybody who wants PDP to take over the reins of power in 2023 would go against what the governors and the leaders of the party decision they took.
Are you saying there are opposition moles in the PDP?
Why are you saying whether you think that that's not what is the ruling party doing? The form we plan moles is correct. The form we plan agents to destabilize is correct. I mean, you don't need to ask that kind of question. We all know. Let me tell you something.
But my apologies.
No, it's not for you to apologize. It is correct. Let me tell you why. I mean, I've been in the system. I've been in politics. I do know. It's not also, there's nothing wrong in that. Yes, it's politics they're playing to get information, to destabilize so that they don't have that strength to compete with them. So that's not my problem. But the problem is that why should I be that mole? Why should I be that agent of destabilization? If I'm doing that, then I don't want the progress of this country.
Well, Your Excellency, you've been doing quite a bit of work in Rivers State. I mean, there have been a lot of commissionings going on here. I've just been wondering, what exactly is the vision for Rivers State, and how far would you say you've gone in implementing that vision?
You know, the good thing for us, I don't know what happened, but somehow, you may not be, don't get offended that I will say that. Somehow, we're very happy that what we have done for our people, what we have achieved. Sometimes when we look back where we're coming from, we never knew that we could get to this stage where we are now. This is a state that had nearly crumbled. You used to hear about River State before. Why United States? When I mean United States, you wouldn't even talk about which ethnic group does this person come from. But somehow, everything scattered. Today, this person wants to talk about this ethnic group, that ethnic group, and this and that. A state that people love to come. You used to hear River State as a guardian city. a state where opportunities abound, where our people will get jobs irrespective of where you come from. But all of that eroded. And so we felt that, look, one thing we must do is to bring back the state of what it used to be known. A state where we see ourselves as one people. A state where we see ourselves that the development of our state is more paramount to us for the future of the youth.
So for you, the infrastructure development which you're developing is to also foster ethnic unity?
Definitely. Not foster ethnic unity, to create development in other areas. Take, for example, how do I get to, if you are passing, now, for example, if you are going to, if you are going to Goni area, if you are going to Goni, you must pass through my local government by road. Then you get to Eleme, which is no Goni. Then after Eleme, you get to Tai and the rest, Gokana and Kana. Now, there's no road in my area to get to Eleme. And no Eleme person can come into my area in terms of either trading or carry out other activities. Now, but by providing that road, first of all, you've tried to create a kind of bond between that local government and this local government in terms of economic activities. All right? So providing rules, one, you enhance the economic activities of the area. But you attract a lot of infrastructure. How would a company go to a place when there's no road? It is not the duty of companies to create roads. How would investors come when there's no infrastructure? How will they come? How would investors come when there's no security, if the place is insecure? How? These are things you need to provide to attract investors to your area. People talk about what is all this road when there are no companies coming, and when there are no companies. And I ask them a simple question. How will a company come when the basic infrastructures are not there? How will they come? But when they provide these basic infrastructures, then the companies are willing to come. Like they're coming back to the state now. But before it was not there. One of the things you identify, whether you are doing well or not, is the IGL. As I say, when I came on board, the IGL was 4 billion naira, 5 billion naira. As I speak today, we have been doing between 9 to 10 billion. In spite of the downturn in the economy of the nation. That tells you our efforts. So I can anywhere, any day, say, look, within these 6 years in office, we have done extremely well.
So it's not for you. I mean, one of the things that people will be measuring the indices with are the indices in health, life expectancy in River State, for instance, the rate of unemployment. I was thinking that perhaps part of the reasons why you're doing this development is also to be able to tackle some of these indices to bring them to a significant bottom.
That's the part. Okay, take for example, the issue of unemployment. Now, companies are working. They're employing people. Take for example, if you have, like, say, 30 contractors, for example, right? Do you know the staff of Julius Berger today, River State alone, is over 4,000. Over 4,000. Where are they from? Where are they from? They're all rivers and residents. So that is employment. People think creation of employment is only when you work in the ministries. Right? Now, that alone, those jobs create an indirect job. People who deal with supply of laterites, sand, cement, make sales and get money for their feeding and take care of their families. So creating of employment is not only when people advertise for people to work in ministries. And that has always been, when people talk about the indexes, what do you measure? When people say the rate of unemployment, I begin to challenge the Bureau of Statistics. What are your measures? What are your barometers of measuring the rate of unemployment and the rate of employment in a particular state.
Do you have a yardstick for measuring in your own state?
Why not? Take, for example, I have the list of unemployed youths as are those who have registered, right? Now, when I look at the list, assuming they were 8,000, do you understand what I'm saying? And then it has come down to, say, 7,000, for example. Will you not say that you are reducing the level of unemployment?
Are you reducing it as fast as you would like to? That's the question.
First of all, it is not possible because of the downturn of the economy of the country. You cannot. And taking into consideration the effect of COVID-19, you know that affected the world economy. And you cannot say you will be faster than the national economy. No, it's not possible. Because the first thing you must know is that our economy will run one economy, one economy, dependent on one product. Once anything happens, it affects the entire states. So no state, every state economy is dependent on whatever the national economy is. And that is the truth. That's why sometimes when some states say, look, we're bringing investors, we agree. But there are factors. Who clears them? How do they come? So there are situations where sabotage comes in. I remember there are some investors we wanted to come in, and they got a bad report, which a country shouldn't do.
Okay.
Which a country shouldn't do. How would you, because you want to strangulate the state, you send a bad report that, look, you don't think it is good to go to that state now. And that is not good. But that's been political.
Not being honest.
Yes, that's been political. In fact,
was there a representation of the true situation of things at that time?
It was not. But even as I speak today, when you look at the security situation in the country, you will know that Rivers State, comparatively, you can't hear this number of people have been killed. That does not mean that you won't get one or two crimes committed in the state, right? But you cannot, on daily basis. There was time you used to hear courtists fighting, killing, and this and that, right? It is no longer the case in Rivers State. It's no longer the case where you say, oh, 10 people were kidnapped on the road going to worry and this and that. Have you ever been hearing that again?
But Your Excellency, one of the challenges...
You can, and it takes effort of the state government, partnering with the security agencies, to provide security for the people of the state.
One of the things, Your Excellency, that one would want to find out as we wrap this up is, okay, these are amazing things that we have heard, and many people would commend it. But the challenge on the minds of a number of people would be how these things will be sustained when your term expires. I mean, you also understand that government is a continuum. Are there systems put in place? Because we have seen several infrastructure, federal structures, infrastructure, state infrastructure, that after the tenure of the government in power at the time, it just tapers out of relevance. So are there systems to
when it says system, when it says system, this is one thing I found out in this country. When I came on board, knowing that government is a continuum, there are so many projects that were abandoned. But I said, no, these projects must be completed. In my first tenure, I can read them out as I sit here. I can read them out. Why would I abandon such projects? Simply because it was not awarded by my government for the benefit of the people? It depends on you and how you see a state. If you see a state as not a personal property, if you see a state as for everybody, you will not say because Mr. Wike is no longer the governor, whatever good thing he has put in place should be set aside. So when they say sustainability, I agree. Sustainability will also depend. If I put structures now, right, that look, as we are now, we have modern child hospital. How do we maintain it? How do we keep it? Right? And I leave. Do you understand me? Another person comes as governor. He may think that may not be his priority, which is wrong. Which is wrong. Now, because we have not built in our system, we don't build institutions. And that's the problem we have in Nigeria today. We don't talk about the institutions. Because it's a place, take for example, if a governor is not around, nothing happens in the state. Is it the way it's supposed to be?
Is that the case in your state?
It is everywhere by the system we run. But you see, in an advanced countries, whether Mr. President is there or not, things must move on. Because institutions have been built.
Okay.
And that is the situation we don't find ourselves here. Everything is dependent on one person. Each other even at the federal level. It's true. So it's not a question of where you will ask. It is true. Well, the day Mr. President travels, that's the end of it.
Well, Your Excellency, we have to call it a day at this point because, I mean, there are so many things to unpack with you. I mean, we were talking about this and saying that 4 hours is not going to be enough to take on all the issues with you. But for today, we have to thank you very much for your time and your perspectives on the nation. His Excellency Nyesom Wike is Governor of Rivers State. Thank you once again, Your Excellency.
Thank you. Do we have time for mails?
Well, from the signals that I'm getting, we do not.
Well, I think we have to acknowledge your mails at least. We see your mail, Festus Akimboyewa, Alamin Ribadu, and also Frank Egajiwe.
Those are the mails that came in.
Yes.
Well, there has to be. I mean, come on. We're speaking with the governor of the state. Well, that's the show this morning. Thank you so much for your time, for listening, and for allowing us to be a part of it. I'm Ayo Makini. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you for your contributions. I'm Maokwe Ogun Yusuf.
And I'm Kayode Kikelu. Thank you.